Welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast with your hosts, Jason Mefford and Kathy Groover. Fire and Earth, giving you the keys to unlock your limitless potential.
Welcome to another episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason Mefford.
And I am Kathy Groover, and we have another amazing guest today. So excited to welcome Megan Warren of Megan Warren Design. How are you doing today, Megan?
I am so good. Thank you for having me.
We've got the California connection represented here. We've got Jason in Southern California. I'm on Central Coast, and you're up in like the San Francisco Bay Area, right?
That's right. I'm in Alameda.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Alameda's a cool little place, you know. Yeah.
It is. It's a funky little island town. You're close to the city, but yeah, we like it.
Awesome. Yay. All right. So tell us what you do. What has brought you to this point in your life?
Sure. I am a residential interior designer. And what has brought me to this point in my life? Well, I would say that I grew up in Utah, in Salt Lake City, Utah. My dad was a contractor, a residential contractor. So building was always happening. Homes were always changing. My home was changing too for different reasons. But I was always kind of focused on homes and houses and changing and all of that. So, and always interested in art. I knew I would be in art or in design some way. So when I was 20, I relocated from Salt Lake City, came to San Francisco to study interior design, got an internship kind of immediately, and have just been working in the field ever since.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So off camera, I said, what's the difference between a decorator and a designer? Because I assumed there was a difference, but I actually didn't really think about that much. So what is the difference between an interior designer and interior decorator?
Sure. So, I don't correct people when they call me a decorator, because I feel like you say you're interior designer and people think Easter Bunny anyway. But a decorator, I think, is more soft goods. So they're coming in and they're saying, here's some cute pillows and maybe we change the lampshade and maybe some drapes here. An interior designer is thinking more holistically. So, and, oftentimes from a remodeling perspective, what walls can we move? Hard finishes, how is the furniture going to lay out in the room? Those types of things.
Yeah.
Well, even down to the fixtures, as well, plumbing,
Absolutely.
electrical, other stuff like that, to be able to tie in the whole look as well.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Well, my dad was a contractor too.
Okay.
So I grew up in Boise, but I have a lot of family that lives in Utah as well. So it was, my dad started dragging me to the job site when I was 8 years old.
Yes.
Right. That was my summer job. So you're probably the same way.
Exactly.
But I know, it's interesting, because let's dig maybe a little bit more into that, because I think it's always fascinating why people get to where they are as well. Right. So I grew up on the job site. I know how to build a house. I could do pretty much everything, but I consciously chose not to be a contractor. Right. I love houses. I love real estate. But I chose to go a different path where, again, you chose to go to school for this.
Sure.
So there must have been something more kind of behind why you want to spend your life doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. You're onto something. I think, well, there were a couple things. It's what I knew, right? It's what I knew how to do, both from watching my father do it, but also just like I have an inherent creative sense, I think, about the physical world. I think that if we didn't live in our society, I would probably be an artist. I like to make things, and I like color, and I like texture. But I had to make money. And so being an interior designer was, I think, a way to do both of those things. And then as an aside, I am very good with people, I think, and working with people and sort of figuring out what their needs are. And just sort of helping people along the path of getting where they want with their homes. So that was sort of just a natural bonus that I think has kept me doing what I'm doing, and doing it, I think, pretty well.
Yeah. Well, there's such a power in what you do, and people probably don't think about this. Like, you get to help people realize their dream home.
Totally.
And you get to put them in an environment that is nurturing and beautiful and more creative, which allows people to be more productive. So can you speak to that a little bit? I mean, like, what is the power of how you lay out your home or how you decorate your home?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, it's so specific. The needs are so specific per client. So, I mean, a large part of the job is really working with people and figuring out how they live and really getting into the details of it. You know, how old are the kids? What do they do? Do they do a lot of sports? How much do you cook? I kind of lost sight of the question, but I mean that
Yeah.
really that really is the job is learning people and then creating a space that works for them, but still sort of represents like a larger view of beauty and, like, you know, just as I guess that is sort of current, so that because that's what a lot of people want too, right? Is they want their friends to come over and think, wow, this is a great space, but also that it represents them in the way they live. Yeah.
Well, because there is, and I'm sure that there's, you know, because as you're talking to, I remember like when Boeing built the 787, they spent billions of dollars on this thing, and there were a whole bunch of design elements that they put in that none of us even know about, right? I mean, a lot of these things are kind of subconscious and other things like that, to where, you know, but we're all, you know, we go into a certain space, and some spaces just make us go and feel relaxed, right? And others, it's just like, there's just something wrong with this. You know, something's not up right.
Can't put my finger on it. Yeah.
You can't put your finger on it. And so I'm sure, you know, what you're doing is, yes, there's kind of the, you know, keeping up with the Joneses side of it, of, hey, I want my house to be beautiful and the neighbors to think it's wonderful. But there's also a deeper thing to it as well, I think, with the person and the productivity and the way that they're able to relax or enjoy that space where we are, especially now, more of us are home more than ever. And so, you know, you want where you're hanging out the most to be the most productive for you. Productive is the wrong word, but I think you know what I mean, right? So
Yeah.
what are some of those kind of things like that people may not even realize that you're helping people do?
Yeah, I mean, so sort of when I'm first meeting with a client, we kind of come up with like their list of things that they want, right? So I want an office space. Let's say someone wants an office space, and I want it to be clean and modern, and I want the Zoom background to look great. So okay, we've got our sort of, you know, North Star of the plan or whatever. And then we get into the details and like, oh, I don't want to get rid of that, and I don't want to get rid of that, but I love my coat rack. So part of my job is really like not losing sight of those goals that we came up with at the beginning of the project. And it's taken me years to figure out how to bulldoze people correctly, so that we achieve those goals without, because there's a reason people hire me, right? Because they can't let go of things like that, or figure out a different way to do things, so that we get to a place where the space still represents them, but also functions for them.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
That's a good point. I totally forgot about you having to deal with people's clutter and my great Aunt Mary's coat rack that she loved so much. And where do I put that? I mean, it's the same thing when I do coaching with people, right? They come in with a specific goal. And then after a couple of weeks, I go, you know, you're not actually, you said you wanted to do this thing. And what I see you doing is this thing. So like, where can we bring that back? You know, it's about you paying such close attention to what they said they wanted.
Right.
And helping them navigate that. I mean, there's such a psychology to that I didn't even really think about.
Yes. You have to be so gentle, but also like firm at the same time. Because it costs them money too to change their mind 300 times and to take a different route in the middle of the project. And yeah.
So if somebody wants to work with a decorator or a designer, damn, I did it. I should know better. If somebody wants to work with someone like you, how do you find a designer that like jives with you? How do you kind of shop for someone to help you do this sort of thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't do a lot of shopping for interior designers, but what I hear is that, maybe half of my business comes from referrals.
Mm.
So, you ask your friends, you see someone with a good space. A lot of us are not as expensive as you'd think. So it's worth asking around. So I think I get a lot of referrals, but then I come up on Google for people too. House is a great way. And I've had people find me on Instagram, even though I'm not a heavy Instagram user. So, those are all ways to find interior designers, but to find one that gels with you, I would say interview a few. And that's part of my process too, is I'm interviewing clients to make sure that I like them and that they like me, because this is such a personal thing. We want to make sure we understand each other, that we speak the same language, and that we're connecting. Because with lead times right now and the way construction is going, we're going to be friends for a long time.
Well, yeah, because supply chain has been disrupted. I know one of my friends is building a new house, and at first the contractor was like 9 months. No, maybe a year, probably 18 months, right? Because
Yes.
they can't get in
Yeah.
a lot of the things that they're looking for. And there is, I mean, people are remodeling like crazy, and they're
Yes.
and doing stuff. So a lot of that stuff is kind of, in a hiccup, which actually brings up a good point too, because I think it's, for most people, their home is their biggest investment, right? It represents the most money that they've outlaid. It also, ranks as one of the top stressful things. Buying, remodeling,
Absolutely.
selling a home are all kind of up in the top 5. And so, that importance of having a relationship with the right person, I think is important as well. And that's what you're kind of looking for. And that's what people should be looking for, because like you said, you're going to be with this person probably for a while.
Absolutely. And you also, like, if you're, you know, already lined up with an architect or a contractor, you want to make sure that those people can work really well together, because you're going to have a relationship with the architect or the contractor for potentially that long as well.
Yeah. So this is sort of an esoteric question. How do you tell if you are going to gel with that person? I mean, are there like keywords you listen for? Is it just a feeling you get? I mean, because you've been doing this a long time. So
Yeah.
how do you know if that relationship's going to actually be a strong one?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I have like a little list, a checklist of things that I'm looking for when I'm talking to clients, potential clients. It is largely intuitive for me. I think I just kind of know in my gut whether this is my person or not. And then there's the obvious things like, what is the budget? What is their tolerance for project delays? Those kind of more obvious things. But yeah.
Well, and I think that's a good lesson for all of us, because I know I've gotten in bed with clients, figuratively, where, it ends up being a nightmare because I was either desperate for the business or, well, somebody recommended them, or, oh, they really said they want to work with me. And then it ends up being a nightmare. And I think so often we forget that it's a choice both ways.
Yes.
I've had people say, oh, I don't know if I want to interview for that job because I don't know if I really want it. It's like, you don't have to take it.
Yes.
But the more people you talk to, and that more that list develops of what that ideal person looks like. And I think in any profession, we forget about that it's a two-way relationship, and you get to choose. You get to build that relationship. And Jason, you do coaching too. I'm sure there's clients that you've gone, no, I'm not doing that.
Well, and that's an important thing that, at first, especially when you're starting out, it's like, oh, anything, just give me anything, right?
Yes.
But as you were talking, I was kind of remembering this one guy that my dad built a house for, and he was the client from hell. I still remember the man's name. He's been dead for a long time, so I don't want to embarrass any offspring. But again, it was my dad's choice, right? I mean, he got into that relationship. It was one that he probably never should have gotten into, because the time delays, the back and forth with changing their mind, with all of these things. And like you said, those things add up. I mean, change orders, other things like that. And all of a sudden, if a person can't change their mind, it's very difficult. It drains you, it drains them as well.
Yes. Yeah. And you still have the option. Well, I guess it depends, where you are in the project, but like you can still leave, you don't have to see it completely through.
Yeah.
Which is I'm still learning that, to be honest with you. But
yeah,
I mean, people change, or you see a different side of somebody in the middle of a project, and you think, okay, I have these 3 more deliverables, and if there's any scope creep, it's just, I'm cutting it off.
Yeah.
But I'm still practicing that.
It's hard. I'm still terrible at firing clients too. I mean, you don't want to do it. There's, you committed to that thing and you want to finish it. And
Yes.
so I'm at my house. My office at my office is filled with stuff from clients, things from all around the world. And I can tell you what every little item, where it came from, who gave it to me. Jason and I have done a couple episodes of What's on My Desk, where we'll just grab random things off our desk and talk about what it means to us.
Yeah.
What is the importance of crafting a space that has that stuff in it, that doesn't become I mean, like mine's very cluttered, that doesn't become a clutter mess? But what is the importance of having those little touchstones of things that you love, that remind you of your past?
Yeah, I think that is so important. So, I mean, this is like sort of in the accessorizing stage of a project for me. So, the built-ins are in, the furniture is in. We've already talked about if we're keeping grandma's armoire, coffee table, or whatever it is. So that's incorporated, but then we're accessorizing. A lot of people don't buy stuff like trinkets and boxes and great looking coffee table books. So a lot of the time I bring a big pile of stuff over. I look at what somebody has. And we talk about that. We talk about like, why is this important? I made that in college, or my son made that when he was in first grade, and then we kind of eliminate, we edit. But I think that kind of stuff is really what makes a space personal. And connects us to our homes. And even when I'm working with clients, I really like them to be involved in every choice. And I learned that, Denise hates plaid because of Catholic school, and Andrew doesn't like wicker because he had a terrible experience in Hawaii. Like, so their stamp is on all the furniture and things that we've chosen. But those final touches and those accessories that have meaning is kind of just like the icing on the cake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's important because I know, some friends of ours, they just did some remodel on their house. And a lot of times when, designers or decorators come in, they pretty much do the whole thing. They do it to kind of, make it like an Architectural Digest or whatever the current magazines are, right? Because they want this showpiece house. But so much of the time it feels like the client's personality is not there. Like you said, I mean, coffee table books, other stuff like that. They just remodeled their house. We went over, I'm like, hey, you've got an Aaron Slim's book here. And they're like, oh yeah, our designer brought that in. I'm like, you don't know who he is? I love him. I mean, little things like that. But it seems like sometimes when people go through the process, it becomes so sterile.
Yes.
That it's not still their space. So it sounds like it's important though to incorporate some of those things in as well, because we're not living in a hospital, it's a home, and it should reflect us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is definitely one of my strong suits, I guess, or like something that is really important to me in design is to not make this space look like a living spaces catalog. I want it to look like home, and I want it to look like a personal space. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and I think that inspires us, right? I mean, and that's one of the reasons Jason and I did the What's on My Desk episodes is, we put these things around us because we love them, because they inspire us, because they move us forward in some way. So and I've been it because when I used to do out call massage, I would walk into some of these, like really showcase homes, and it was like out of a catalog. I mean, like every pillow was perfect and everything was different shades of gray. And then there was these books on the table that they didn't read. And then there was like, one carousel horse, and you're like, what the hell's that doing there? I mean, it looked like it's like, what is that for? And is that actually yours, or did some designer just like, go to page 32 and randomly select some piece of color to be in the house? Do people have, and I've read the books about clutter and productivity and all this stuff. Have you found that people really have trouble letting go of these things? What does that say deeper about that person?
Yeah. I find that by the time people are working with a designer, they're ready to let go of some stuff. Or they have a basement that all the things that they love, that they know they shouldn't have, are going to. I mean, let's see. What was the question?
Well, talking about people who don't want to let that stuff go, and sort of, how do you help them navigate through that sort of thing?
Yeah, I use the word edit a lot, right? So I feel like let's find what is the most special thing. What are the most special, 5 or 8 objects to put on this shelf? If we put it all on there, it looks like a yard sale, and I'm not afraid to say it, because it does. I mean, there's a difference between doing a display and doing it artfully and just piling it on. I like to edit. Yeah. And I like to rotate too. So, that's another option, is we get a big Rubbermaid storage bin, and in the fall you get to switch out your accessories, and, we can come over and help with that if you want.
That's a great idea. I never thought to do that, especially being in such a small place. Like, I never thought about rotating stuff around. I just shove everything. It does sort of look like a yard. I mean, it does sort of look like a yard sale.
It's a great idea, and it gives you an opportunity to sort of re-love things, when you haven't seen it for 6 months and now it's all clean and pretty and sitting on a couple of books, you appreciate it more, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually a really good point. Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask too, I mean, because, I know a lot of people listening, they might not be at that point of bringing in a designer. I mean, are there some little tips that you give to people just about trying to make, whether it's your workspace or some area in your house, some little things that people can even just kind of try out or do for themselves? Because I'm thinking, especially now, we've been in the work from home for a couple of years for a lot of people, but I think that was one of the reasons why people were going out and buying bigger houses and other stuff, because it's like, man, if I'm going to be home, I'm not going to be on the kitchen table like this, while the kids are running around and screaming.
Yeah,
I need a space that's going to help me actually work better. So are there kind of some little tips or things like that you give people to, at least as a starting point, to try to help them out if they're not quite ready to hire a designer?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a big one is experimenting, giving yourself the time and the space to actually play around with furniture layouts. Don't just let things go stale. I think things need like an energy shift. So, if you're feeling funky in your office, move the desk to the other wall. Even if it feels like, no, that wouldn't work for X, Y, and Z, just try it. Just try some different stuff. Carve out an hour or 2 of time just to make small changes, just to see, and it might rejuvenate you for a week, or maybe you move it back. And so I would say just play around and get in touch with your space a little bit that way.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
And it seems like that might be where some of the intuitiveness comes in too, right? Because I watch my wife do this. We'll buy a new art piece or something, right? And so I'll see it at this place in the house, and then a day later it's over here, and then it's over there, and then finally it kind of finds a resting point, if you will, right? Because I think she kind of walks by and she's like, nope, that's not where it goes. Moves it somewhere else. Still doesn't feel right over there.
Yes.
And finally it kind of finds that resting point. And like you said, we can do that with little things. It's even just like moving things from one side of the desk to the other, or whatever else, right?
Yeah, it's like you move a plant around a room to see where it gets the best light. Yeah, just play around.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I tend to do that with wall color. Like, I'll get a bug up my ass and just be like, I just need to paint this wall.
Yeah.
Which is a little more permanent than moving the desk around the room. Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to knock out walls and go, nah, I liked it better when it was there. Yeah. It's a little too late for that one. Cool. Oh my gosh. And of course, we've run out of time because we do this with amazing guests. Jason, any final words for you or anything to throw out there?
No, I think this is great. I think it's a good relationship is important. It's got to feel right. But I think, again, it's what you're doing with the space, and that we all probably need to kind of look around, especially if we're feeling maybe a little funky.
Yeah.
And it's like, just try something, move something a little bit, do something different, paint a wall,
Shake it up a little. Yeah.
shake it up a little bit, because I think we tend to kind of get in that rut or routine, or even sometimes, like when you're talking about the modern look that people want, usually. Why? Because it looks old, right? Like we have
Right.
popcorn ceilings in our
Ugh.
house here.
Yeah.
Well, popcorn ceilings have a very 70s, 80ish vibe to it, right? It doesn't bother me, it bugs the hell out of my wife. Right?
Yes.
So even little things like that, because there might be things around us that we're not even realizing,
Yes.
like grandma's armoire or whatever, right?
Uh-huh.
That just doesn't serve us anymore.
Right.
And it's time to let some of those things go too.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I love the idea of rotating if you have the space to do that. Maybe grandma's armoire comes out in the winter because that's where we put the blankets that we use on the couch. And maybe in the summer it goes away and we pull out granddad's smoking chest or, something like that. So yeah, I love that idea of rotating. If you get the space to do that, that's awesome. Yay. Oh, this has been such a fun conversation. I love talking about design and color and just because when we create a space, it fuels us. It makes us have a more full life rather than just being
Absolutely. Yes.
surrounded by. I got to clean some stuff up. Cool. Megan, how can people reach you if they want to talk to you about some design stuff or work with you up in the Bay Area?
Sure. Yeah. My website is a great place. It's just meganwarrendesign.com.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what is because you said you get some stuff from Instagram, and I follow you on Instagram. So what is your Instagram handle?
Also Megan Warren Design.
Cool. Beautiful. Yay. This is so exciting. All right. I'm Kathy Groover. I can be reached at kathygruver.com.
I'm Jason Mefford. I can be reached at jasonmefford.com. So go out, just create a little bit of a different space in your house or your office this week and just see how it makes you feel. Catch you on the next episode of the Fire and Earth Podcast. See ya.
See ya.
All right.